Happy Saturday, happy 4th of July. And hello everyone, I'm Crystal and welcome back to Secrets to Success. And today we'll be talking all things social media, the power and influence of social media, how to master the online you, and the impact of social media on mental health. And today we are very, very lucky to have my friend, social media and branding strategist, entertainment expert, presenter, journalist, and podcaster of the business of show business. Please welcome Jamie Buddy, and I will bring him on live right now. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Happy 4th of July to all those who are celebrating today. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. Like you said, happy 4th of July for all of those who that applies to.
Yes, yes. I think, today is a big day for those, especially in the United States, and those who are celebrating it around the world, or those, United States citizens who are celebrating it elsewhere in the world. How are you doing today, Jamie?
Not too bad, thank you. Not too bad. How is everything on your end? Like, what time is it there?
It's 9 p.m. in Singapore. What time is it on your side?
2 p.m., so not too bad.
Okay, yeah, we just have a 7-hour time difference, so not too bad. So today we're going to talk all about social media. We're going to talk about the power and influence of social media, how to master the online you, tips and tricks from the social media branding expert, that is you, and the impact of social media on mental health. So maybe we want to start off with why you think that social media has become so popular in today's world. I mean, maybe 15, 20 years ago, we wouldn't have imagined social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube dominating our world and our everyday lives. We see businesses, brands, individuals using social media platforms to establish their online presence. So maybe tell us why, social media is playing such a big role in our lives nowadays.
Of course. Well, if you even just look at your phone, and especially during COVID, your phone it's your window to the outside world. It's your entertainment. It's your source of news. It's your best friend. It's your worst enemy. So social media is so prevalent now because obviously times are changing and people want to connect more. They want to inspire. They want to increase brand awareness. If they are a business that sells products or services, social media is a fantastic way to sell those products. So it is integrated, like everyone's digital footprint has increased, whether they are aware of it or not. You may appear in someone else's photos or your products may get reviews online. So social media is so important. So you have to take control of it yourself before someone else takes control of your online presence for you.
Yeah. And speaking of examples, right, of people who've made it big or who've used social media successfully to build their brands, I think one of them is one of the most famous YouTube personalities in the world, PewDiePie, the Swedish YouTuber. And he is reported, I think, self-worth of $25 million and has 105 million subscribers on YouTube. And so he's built a brand for himself and a platform and a business, and and he's turned it into his kind of PewDiePie brand, in the world of gaming. So I think that is one example of how social media has been used effectively or successfully to build a brand. And I think we see so many of these examples, right? Whether on LinkedIn, so people use LinkedIn as a social networking professional tool to make connections, to find work, to find jobs around the world. And then there's obviously other kind of social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and of course the most recent phenomenon, TikTok. In terms of how to master the online you, we've spoken about how the kind of power and influence that social media has for individuals, for businesses, for brands. But in terms of how do we do that? How do we master the online persona? And maybe let's start from the beginning, for those who want to build their personal brand online, but they are struggling with finding their niche or what kind of brand they want to put out there. What kind of advice would you have for those who want to find their niche?
No, and that's a great question. And I think there's a few bases you need to put into check before you even start. So first of all, Why are you using social media? Is it purely for a business purpose? Are you only using certain channels for business? So you really need to kind of sit down and work that out, because you do not have to use every channel for business. Obviously, if you are a bigger company or a brand, you're going to have that uniformed across all of your social media
Yeah.
channels. But quite often as freelancers or small business owners, sometimes they find it harder to separate the line of who I am and who my business is, or how do you unpack your skills online as a personal brand. So I think the first thing to do is actually to look at what social media platforms you have time for, which ones you already have the aptitude to use, and then from there you can start putting in a strategy of how you can get your brand out there. And the key word with social media is social. I think so many people forget to use it to start conversations, celebrate your friends and your peers. It's obviously a fantastic platform to sell on, but it doesn't always have to be broadcast. Use it, again, be authentic. Who you are in real life needs to match online. So I work a lot with creatives, like performers, actors, dance school owners. And one thing I always say to them is that if you're performing on stage as a singer, a dancer, or an actor, you can only perform to the size of that theatre. So say the theatre holds 500 seats. However, having a strong social media online allows you to perform to thousands and entertain and inspire thousands. It's an extension of who you are. But if someone is completely new to it, I think it's just working out what platforms you want to use and what you're comfortable about sharing of your, if you are an individual, a freelancer, what are you comfortable of sharing on there? And obviously, if you are a bigger brand, a bigger business, it's making sure you get your brand tone and voice correct across all platforms, because people buy into people. They love personality. They don't want to deal with a robot.
That is true. That is true. And also, I think you mentioned, find out what social media platforms you already have an aptitude for, you are comfortable with using, right? But I think also the key to finding the right social media platform is finding out firstly what your niche or your brand or what product or service you're trying to offer, and then finding that suitable social media platform for the cause or the aim that you want to achieve, right? Also, so for example, if you want to say run a marketing campaign, then a social media platform like Instagram or TikTok does that very, very well. Of course, if you are trying to find a professional job or a career, then LinkedIn would be the right platform to use.
Yeah, completely. And like you said, LinkedIn is the #1 search engine for professional people. It's more not, it's kind of sharing your skills and things like that. It's not so much like, look at me doing a crazy dance or flossing like you would get on TikTok. And I think you don't have to be on every platform to start with. I think pick 2 or 3, like, and if you have a niche, like rock that niche. I think sometimes people think, oh, if I close my field of work, I'm limited. But actually, by having a niche, you actually open up a bigger pool of work within your niche, and it can actually be more lucrative. Like, why waste your time possibly on clients that aren't going to buy your product, when if you really niche down, build that fan base, and then from there you can spread out or diversify your skills or release new products.
Yeah, that's one thing I've also heard, which is finding your niche and then, getting an audience that will follow you faithfully because they are attracted to that particular niche. That is their area of interest. So for example, if say you like something very specific like gardening, then you want to set up a gardening brand. You can find a suitable, gardening, say roses and petals, or, whatever your niche is, starting a Facebook page or an Instagram page. And if say that is what you're interested in and that's what you want to eventually sell, then starting small, but then after that expanding it to, from roses and roses, you can expand it to bigger gardening products and then to other topics as well, once you have gained that loyal following of people who like that particular niche. Because I also think it's quite hard to start off and be very, very spread out, because who then are you going to attract, right?
Exactly. And like, one thing I always say if I'm working one-on-one with a client is like, if you can do anything, you do nothing. You have to set parameters. So say you were looking for a new dress, you would typically type in ball gown or red dress. You would have those key words you're searching for. If you just type in dress, the amount of options that are going to come up online are insane. So you want to be really concise and defined
and specific.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so work out who is your ideal client, who is buying the services or the products you have, and drilling down. And then that's not to say you can't launch a new service or a new product further down the line, but yeah, go in there and then branch out from that niche.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is very good advice. And in terms of translating your offline persona into online persona, what kind of advice would you give people to do that effectively? How do they make themselves in real life and kind of translate that online, representing, themselves kind of the way they want their online persona to look like?
Yeah, no, and that is a really good question, because I think obviously that you have the term keyboard warriors, and I think sometimes people feel more comfortable having time to think of what reply am I going to send or what am I going to put out there. But again, giving you an example from a performance point of view, how someone lays out their CV to how they are in the audition room to how they are when they're networking outside needs to match online. And I won't go too heavy into it because I know we've got limited time, but in sessions I go down to like building your impressions and having those common identifiers so people remember you. So who you are in that audition room or in that meeting or at that conference needs to match online so people buy into you. So I think it's, if you're not sure of a post, write it down in hand first of all. Is the tone coming across right? There's some great apps where you can actually record your audio, so speak it. So sometimes I say to people, speak what you want to type, so make sure it sounds like you are personally typing it. How you dress when you go to your meetings, when you're networking, you need to have photos that match that. Because again, there's no point living your best hashtag Insta life, but there's a disconnect. Because if someone hires you from what they see online or brings you in for the meeting and it doesn't match, there's a disconnect. And the opposite, if you smash that audition or now that meeting or that pitch, and they go online and your pictures are completely different or they're old, or pictures of you getting drunk all the time in the bar, there's a big disconnect there. So it's just
Yes.
really sitting down and taking stock of your values, what your goals are, and then translating that online.
Yeah. No, I think that is very true, because an interesting word I think that you mentioned is the word disconnect. Whatever that you show or portray, your brand or your if you're selling yourself as a product, your services, then you wanna, whatever you put online, you want to give that same portrayal when you actually attend the first meeting or the audition, or so that people don't have that disconnect. Because like you said, if say you say you are a beauty or fashion influencer, right? And you have this a website showcasing all your beauty and fashion pictures and posts. And then when you turn up, say you don't care at all about how you look, and you just wear your home clothes and you don't bother, presenting yourself well, then there's going to be that disconnect because people are not getting what they are seeing. So it's very important to match your online persona, what you let people see of you online,
Yeah.
with what you actually are when you meet them.
Completely. I'm sure everyone has ordered something online and it's maybe not
Yes.
looked what they wanted to order, or it's not fulfilled the features and they've sent it back or asked for a refund. You don't want someone to ask for a refund on you as a person.
Oh yeah, no, that wouldn't feel nice.
No, exactly. And I think that's one thing, especially for any freelancers out there
Yeah.
are listening. People quite often overlook the fact that you are a product. So it's learning to market yourself, because there's no point being the best at what you do, but no one's seeing it. So it's
Yes.
learning. Social media is an extension of what you do. And a guest on my podcast, Anika Bose, said it really well. If your business is a business on social media, you're an influencer. But if your business works offline, you're a business. And that's so true. You see people that have 40,000 Instagram followers, but then actually they don't have an email list, they don't have a website. So when they do try and launch a product, it maybe doesn't get the right amount of conversions what they want. But just because someone follows you online doesn't always mean they're going to buy into you and the services you offer.
Yeah, and I think something very interesting you mentioned there is conversion, right? It doesn't matter if you have a lot of followers, say on Instagram, but if you don't have another website or another platform to bring them to or to point them towards, then how is that going to convert effectively for you, right? So in terms of conversion, what would you say then are good platforms for conversion?
Yeah, and again, so it kind of drills down to your objectives and what it is. If it's is it purely brand awareness? Is it sales? Is it data capture and email? So it will vary from platform to platform. But what I would say is that you don't own your social media. Although you have your own accounts, if the algorithm changes or the platform crashes or a new one comes out, those followers may not follow you onto the new platform. So you don't own your social media, where you own your website. Obviously, as long as you pay your hosting fee, you own your website, you own your email, you own that data yourself. So don't give the platform more power than you have over your own career. So I think for brand awareness, and if you are in a creative industry, Instagram is obviously fantastic for visuals. Twitter is great for news, sharing articles and more long form content like that. LinkedIn is a lot more professional. So anyone out there who maybe obviously works in accountancy, architecture, whatever it may be, LinkedIn is fantastic for that. But it's working out what your objectives are. So if it's to get, as a creative, more auditions, right, most casting directors are on Twitter, they're tweeting about auditions, but also be on Instagram because you can share your show reel. If you are a doctor, for instance, Twitter would be fantastic because you can share important articles that resonate with you, or new stats on health
or
and
medical news highlights, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of working out what your objectives are and then going from there.
Completely agree. I think what you say is very accurate, in the sense that it's very important to, again, find out what your objectives are, and then making sure you use the most suitable platform for what you want to achieve. But also, just to kind of, provide a different school of thought. So, on TikTok, right, most people would imagine TikTok being a platform for entertainment, short form 15-second videos, or I think they have 60-second videos now as well. Dance videos or hashtag challenges or marketing campaigns. But actually, I have seen a lot of doctors and lawyers on TikTok now being able to educate, spread awareness, and educate their audiences about medical news or medical information or legal information by using TikTok. And because, TikTok allows you to add all these like bites and texts. So they're like, I don't know what they're doing. They're like, either they're talking or they're making movements, or some of them dance, and they add all this medical information, which makes it quite entertaining to watch as well. And they do really well. So you'd be surprised that actually on TikTok nowadays, it's not just for entertainment and memes and jokes, but it's people actually use it for to spread awareness and to educate others.
Yeah, no, TikTok has become such a great platform for like how-to videos, or like learn this in 5 easy hacks. And I think you don't knock it till you try it. So someone might think, oh, their brand or their company might not work on that platform. Give it a go, learn from what does and doesn't work. And then, as you said, you wouldn't think about 6 months ago people were just doing dance videos on them, but now on TikTok they are using it to educate. So you can use each platform to benefit your brand in like different ways.
Yeah, it's about being creative as well.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. So we have a question from Joesh. He says, platforms work on algorithms. Any tips on how to best or beat the system?
Yes, no, great points. If anyone out there listening who maybe doesn't quite know, so each platform will have their own algorithm of how they work, and they're very safely guarded secrets. It's very hard to dive down and drill into it too much on how the algorithms work, and they do change. So for instance, I believe it was the beginning of last year, they prioritized on Instagram, video was a bit more prioritized, but then this year it's been revealed that photos and videos are equal. And then I know on Facebook at the moment, more long form videos are doing well. So videos over 3 minutes and even beyond are doing particularly better than more short form. Consistency is key with the algorithms. So set those parameters, keep your audience on there so they get used to you and they trust and value you. So consistency is definitely important. And conversation, comments, have a call to action. So if you post something, ask what someone's views are on it, or do you agree? Comment below, things like that. The more action your content gets, the more fresh it stays and think at the top of the timelines. So in short, that's kind of in a nutshell how you kind of help the algorithm a bit. There's so many different criteria for each platform, but I think consistency is the main one that will translate across all of them, and then from there you can kind of drill down a bit more into each platform.
Yeah, no, I like what you said. I think it's really true. I mean, yes, every social media platform has its own kind of algorithm. For example, TikTok pushes out, no one For You feed is the same on TikTok because they push out content that they notice that you particularly enjoy, and they tend to push out that kind of content to you. So your news feed is always going to look different from another user's news feed. So that's how TikTok works. And like you said, I think it's understanding the different type of social media platforms and having a basic understanding of how the algorithm works, but also, as you said, consistency is very, very important. So we talked about PewDiePie earlier, right?
Yeah.
And I think so. I was reading, and PewDiePie says that one of the main secret to his success is actually consistency.
Yeah.
putting out content very, very consistently, and hard work, obviously good content, but consistency was his key to
Yeah.
success. And it's not always easy to be consistent, right?
No.
Because
And I think especially now in COVID, it's harder to keep up the same strategy you may have. But it's also reaching out to your audience and seeing what they want and what they want to see from you. And like, one size does not fit all. So what works
yeah.
for someone else won't translate exactly to you. And if it does translate exactly to you, are you unique enough? Is your product unique enough if someone else's model exactly fits yours? So play around, and like, you can learn so much from your data. Like, what did this post get more likes? Why is it? What time of day did I post? Is it a picture of my face? Is it a quote? It might not be that someone's so some of my posts don't get loads and loads of likes, but they get quite a lot of saves or forwards if I've given some advice. So for me, that's actually better because someone has taken the time to read it and send it to someone else. Or I can see on my analytics that someone's clicked through to my website. So for me, I'm like, that's great because they may now convert to a sale. So it's, again, set what is your objective for that platform, and then also grow from what doesn't perform well.
Right, right. Yes, I think that is a very, very good point. So it's understanding your analytics, right? Looking at your analytics. And for those of you who have Instagram pages, you can actually convert your free personal page into a business page on Instagram, and it's free. Am I right? It's free, right? It's free to convert your page to a business page. And with a business page, you have all that analytics. You can view, you know, where the geography of your audience. You can find out, you know, how, for example, if you're living in the UK, 50% of my audience lives in the UK, 20% is from New York, 10% is from Singapore, you know, 10% from Malaysia, whatever it is. So you kind of can tailor your content to where your audience is, number one. I think number two is also finding out the age group. So interestingly, I found out that the majority of my age group, of at least my audience, is between the ages of 25 to 34.
Yeah.
And also, you find out the gender split of your audience as well. So like you said, analytics is very important because it helps you figure out what kind of content to put out next.
Yeah, and just to add to that, if you do swap to a business account, you can swap back to a non-business account at any point. Because I know some people that just like to jump onto a business account, have a quick look, write a report, and then jump back off. Because I know for some people, we will tackle mental health a bit later in this chat, but seeing what did or didn't perform well for your post can take its toll if you put so much time into a post and it didn't perform how you want. So you can go back and forth from being a business account to not, just in case everyone's thinking, I don't always want to see the numbers.
And also with a business account, your page has to be public, and not everyone wants to make that page public, very understandably so. So, you know, if you want to find out your analytics, you can change it to a business account, pull those data up, and then change it back to a private account. But there's just one thing to note with that though, I think, because I think if you change it from only when your page is public, can you view those analytics? But if your page is private, when you post up a certain post, it will not gather the deeper data for you. So yeah, that's just one thing to note, I think.
And I think what, again, depending on what people's business is when they're watching, you need, even if you're a freelancer, a creative, you need to almost think of yourself partly as a marketer now, and how if you are using social media in any way, shape or form for business, how are you coming across online? So the analytics can be so good to learn, because quite often you may go to an interview, an audition, or an open mic night in Tank, whatever it is, quite often you don't get that feedback or a yes or no.
Yeah.
So use that data to your advantage to really think, right, why did this perform well? I want to do more of that. Why didn't it? And again, going back to what you said about knowing your audience, if your audience is, say, 25 to 34 with a slightly female slant to your audience, is that good for your services? Do you need to change the age range? Do you need to split the gender more? You can learn things like that as well.
Yeah.
Really fantastic.
That's a great point that you raise. And coming off the top of that, right? Say, for example, somebody has a majority of an audience in the age range of 25 to 34, but has a more of, let's say, a male kind of audience. But this person wants to do beauty and fashion, and specifically more for females because, you know, they want to promote dresses or makeup or skincare.
Yeah.
How would you say, can they tailor, should they then still put up dress and, you know, female kind of beauty content, even though they know that the majority of their audience are males? Or should they put out content that, you know, tailor more towards male kind of interests?
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic point you make, because that's the thing. Sometimes you can look at that and think, right, do I want to increase the, like, change the angle of it to grow this new audience, or do I really want to drill down into the audience I've got, because that audience may actually be the ones that convert and
Yeah.
book you for a job, that may buy your product. So if you do want to slightly branch it out a bit more, what I would do is, again, you've looked at what your current audience is, but maybe look at your Instagram grid, for instance, as a series of 6 photos. So the top 6 photos you would see, and for every 2 of that, there needs to be maybe more of a male slant to it. So turn the beauty advice more to a male way of, like, fashion lines or male makeup, things like that. So at least if someone who is in that market comes on your page, they see that you cater to everyone's needs. So I think it's trying to make sure that you use your social media as a shop front, and it's like that you clearly showcase everything you have to offer.
Right. So yeah, I think that's a good point. So what you're saying is, if you know you have to say a more male audience, then making sure that you cater to what they like to see as well, right? But also, if your preference is different, is, for example, female fashion, then you can also put up content like that to attract those kind of viewers.
Yeah, because like my analytics, I have more of a female slant to mine, and I know that's typically because I come from a dance background in theatre, so predominantly there are more female dancers than male dancers. But also, I can't remember what the statistic is, but females are a lot more likely to invest in learning and doing courses and things like that. So I know for me, quite a lot of people, a lot of the female audience will benefit from maybe they'd be more likely, to buy a ticket to my course or to sign up to my email blast, because it will help them. So for me, I think, you know what, that audience is perfect. I'm going to keep nurturing that. However, I don't make my posts specifically just tailored to that gender, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so the other question that I had was, we often hear success stories of people achieving, of individuals, businesses, and companies doing very well on their digital social media platforms, and then other people also wanting to get involved and find out how to do that. And then they spend this money and they spend a lot of time trying to build their brands on social media, but they don't quite find that they're achieving the results that they want. What kind of advice do you have for them, to grow their online presence or to establish their brand online?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing, consistency. That's key. Not only consistency with when you post, but also consistency across all of your accounts. They need to have the same branding, the same tone, the same quality. If you're using Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, for instance, that needs to be that consistency as well. A good metric I always say is the 70-20-10 rule. So
okay, I've not heard of this one.
Yeah, so when you post, only 10% is a bit more of your hardcore sales messaging. So buy this, click this. So that's only 10%. 20% is highlighting your like getting testimonials, industry news, things like that. So that 20% is a bit more celebrating others, but showing that you are an expert. And then the 70% is the tips and tricks, behind the scenes, things like that. So that will help you with posting, I think. If you look at your feed and think, right, it's 10% of this more sales messaging, 20% more highlighting and showing you as an expert, and then 70% you can get by giving advice and tips and tricks in your industry. You're still adding value, but you're not being like, look how good I am. You might just be like, I love this article from so and so, or here are 5 tips to pack your travel bag, something like that. Whatever it may be, you're still showing that you are an expert, and people will follow you and hopefully convert to a sale, but without having to be so hardcore with your sales messaging.
Yeah. Because sometimes I think the danger with being too direct and too forceful with sales is that people get a bit turned off, right? If they see too much of that. Yeah.
Because I think people like to buy, but they don't like to be sold to.
And they don't like to be, they don't like to basically feel under pressure, right?
Exactly. Like if you wanted to go and buy a new dress, you'd go and do it. Where if I told you to go and buy a new dress, you'd be a bit like, whoa, calm down. Like you almost want that decision to be your own, don't you? So
yes.
Yeah, it's hard to find that balance. But again, trial and error. You have to test things. No one's going to launch with the perfect product straight away. You've got to learn and grow as your audience does.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, if you're trying to build an online brand or, to kind of start your online presence, one thing I've been told before is to just start it and go ugly early. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have the perfect account, the perfect or the most aesthetic, Instagram feed. The important thing is to start putting your content out there, and you will learn over time what works for you, what doesn't work so well, and how you can make it better. Because I think without trialing and error, like you said, it's very hard to learn if you don't actually do it.
Well, like success is born from failure, isn't it? Like
Yes.
whether you, at school, when you don't do well in an exam, you go and study more. If you launch a product that no one buys, well, how do you need to remarket it, repackage it? And like, as you said, go ugly early. If you wait for that Hollywood finish, it's never going to be there.
Yeah.
You're always going to want to do things. That's what I say to people, whether I'm designing their website or I'm consulting someone. I was like, you need to just at least get your homepage ready and launch it and then build on it. Because if you keep waiting,
it's never going to happen.
A month down the line, 2 months down the line, something else will come in and then your energy will be diverted. So yeah, it's better to do it. And then like, what is it they say? Like it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Okay, and we also spoke about, okay, so for those, you've given advice on how to build your online presence if you're kind of struggling doing so, right? But say some people, because we've also seen instances where people seem to be doing all the right things. So they are using the right platforms, they're posting regularly, they're using hashtags, they're producing great quality, audio visual content, but still they don't find themselves being able to be seen. They don't find themselves being able to push out their content. Whether people like it or not is a different story. But firstly, they need to be seen, and they're struggling with that. So what would you say to that?
Yeah, again, looking back at their objectives and what platforms they're on, and really drilling down to who is their ideal client. As I say to my clients, you are the solution to someone's problem. So what are you solving for someone? There is someone out there who needs you as a personal brand. They need your product. They need your company. But as I said, there's no point being the most amazing person at what you do, but not being seen by the right people.
Yeah.
And just to kind of put it in context, like, the conversion rate roughly, or engagement rate of your following, is only typically 1 to 3%. So although you may say you've got, 3,000 followers, as long as you're getting between 1 to 3% engagement on it, you're actually in line with the rest of the world. Anything above 5% is considered excellent engagement. So just because you're maybe not getting 100 likes, look at who is liking it. Are they sending you messages? Are they commenting? So pick your win may be different to someone else's. And I think there's always that opportunity to rebrand, set yourself those goals. So it's not always like, you may have also achieved your year goal within 6 months and you've plateaued. So that's why you're getting frustrated at your content. So then you need to reassess your goals, see what has worked and what hasn't worked when you now go forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your comment, Danielle. She says interesting.
Hi, Danielle.
Thank you, guys. Hi, Danielle. Thank you for joining us today. And thank you to the rest of the viewers as well. And if you guys have any questions, Jamie is the expert here today. Very fortunate to have him. He's joined us to share his tips and tricks on building your social media presence. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comment section below, and we will do our best to get through them in today's session as well. So just continuing on, right? We've spoken about analytics, we've spoken about how to get seen, we've spoken about, conversion, how you can convert your content or your platforms to, is it sales is that your end goal? You want to sell merchandising products on your website. Is it services that you can offer? Is it products you're selling? Now, in terms of monetization, how would you tell someone if they want to now monetize their platforms?
Yeah, and also this is really important when we went back to niching as well, because especially if you have a very specific niche, you may still be able to monopolize that and make lots of money, even if your following isn't amazing, because the people that need your niche will pay big bucks for it. It's like, we say you launch a course and people have to pay to attend. You pay because there's value, and it also shows your expertise, where sometimes when a course is free, the attendance rate is a lot lower because they're like, oh, I'm not tied to that. So you are an expert on what you do. So again, it's looking at what problem do you solve. So for me particularly, I almost exclusively work with creatives and freelancers. So they're the people that are going to maybe attend my masterclass or book a one-on-one consultation. There's no point me trying to talk about my product to someone who works in marketing, because they get the idea. So it's
Mm.
working out who is buying your services or your products. So monetizing is not always based on how many followers you have. From a vanity metric point, obviously the more followers you have, that does look better. However, I know a lot of people who are fantastic at what they do, but a lot of their followers aren't the decision makers. They may follow them because they're like funny or they're like a children's TV presenter, but they don't control the purse strings. Their parents do.
Mm.
So although they've got
Yeah,
lots of
yeah.
followers, they're not actually going to buy a meet and greet or buy their book because they can't afford to. So it's working out who is your ideal client and why are they buying into you. Then you can obviously reach out to, it could be sponsorship from one company for your podcast, your YouTube channel. It could be that you are a brand ambassador for someone. So the way of making money could be the fact of you get a mild commission from every product that they click on the link from your website. There's lots of different ways in which you can monetize your brand.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That is interesting. And also like you mentioned earlier about one example of monetizing, which is selling your kind of show to Spotify. And one example of that is Joe Rogan. So he sold the Joe Rogan Experience to Spotify for $100 million US. Amazing. But obviously he is one of the top podcasters out there, and I think it's so his content is very, very interesting.
Yeah. And I think, like, obviously I know myself from podcasting, but I think this year, don't quote me on this, but I think this year Apple Podcasts hit 1 million podcasts.
Wow.
Or something like that. I can't remember the exact stat. So there's a lot of competition. So again, it's niching out and also using someone else's success to drive you as opposed to using it to hinder you. So look at that story, think fantastic. What he did might not work for me now because he started years before me. However, what can I implement from that?
What can I learn from others, right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Other question is podcasting. So podcasting has been around for some time, but it's been in the last 2-3 years that it's like boom. Everybody wants to do podcasting now. You yourself are a podcaster, and by the way, guys, if you guys want to check out Jamie's podcast, it's called The Business of Show Business, streaming in 26 countries now. Well done, Jamie.
Thank you very much. And it's 27 now. Someone in Mexico.
Oh, well done. Which is the extra country? Which is the 27th country? Mexico, nice. So tell us, why did you start podcasting, and why is podcasting so popular now?
I think there's something very intimate about having someone in your ears, isn't it? Like with a podcast and how you listen when people talk and you engage. And podcasts are great because you don't have to fully stop what you're doing. You can listen to it on your commute, when you're doing your housework, when you're studying. And I think so for me, it was an extension of what I have to offer and another way for me to help people, because although I do masterclasses, they're obviously at the moment very limited to like England, or unless I do them on Zoom. So I thought a podcast was a fantastic way for me to help people. Also for me to help build brand awareness for myself and attract a new audience. Like I don't have any clients from Mexico, but now I'm like, oh, I have people listening now from Mexico. So what a fantastic
and who knows, they may engage you for master classes and things like that.
Exactly. And podcasts like this, like mine's obviously about the business of show business, but there's great fictional ones. There's comedy. There's like podcasts about
all kinds of topics,
about chiropodists. There's so many.
Yeah. And I think it's great what you mentioned also. I find myself sometimes listening to YouTube or Spotify kind of podcasts just while I'm washing the dishes, for example, you know? Yeah. So it's just running in the background and I can do things while learning something.
Yeah, completely. And I think YouTube is becoming a really big platform now for podcasts because, again, like you said, you can just leave it on in the background or you can open up other tabs. So surprisingly, YouTube, which is more of a visual platform, is becoming quite a popular platform for like podcasts.
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much for sharing with us, firstly, the power and influence of social media. Some examples we've discussed. You've also talked about, given us tips on how to master the online you, how to take your offline persona and translate it online. Now we want to talk about the impact of social media on mental health. Social media is a phenomenon, and it's great if used positively, but excessive use or use without caution can also have a lot of negative impacts on us. And I think the top 3 diagnoses that we have read about online are usually anxiety, depression, and stress that result from excessive usage or use without caution of social media. let's talk about, you know, one of it, say people scrolling through social media and, you know, often having that internal monologue with themselves. A lot of times unconsciously, not knowingly, they're like, oh, okay, you know, this is what fitness gurus look like, you know,
Yeah.
how come I don't look like that? Or, oh, this person is always traveling and, you know, oh, that is the kind of life. But I think we don't realize that a lot of this is only the highlights of someone's life. They don't see like 10%, they see the best 10% of that person's life, but they don't see the 90% behind that.
Completely. And as we said, go back to algorithms, they only serve in certain people the images, depending on if you engage a lot with their posts and stuff. So I think
Yeah.
people, it's comparison. Like even now, think about so much has gone online because of COVID. We are constantly having to look at ourselves in the screen as we're talking to people. And then like I'm so guilty of it. I'll be on the Zoom and I'm like trying to fix my hair but make it look cool. So it's this where it's constantly on it and it's so integrated to what we do. And I think one of, in a good way, mental health has definitely become a lot more on the forefront in social media. The sad thing is a lot of bad things have had to happen for it to
Yeah.
start making its way to be like, actually mental health online is so important. And like I have a free resource on my website for it because I think it's so important, because quite often we follow people that inspire us, but are we following the right people that inspire us? Sometimes you'll follow someone because it's a vanity thing, and actually it makes you feel really bad about your life, or that you're not working out that day, or you can't bake banana bread, or you're not working from a desk in like Thailand. Where if you're actually following people that inspire you to want to do more, and like then they're the people you should be following, not the people that actually make you feel bad about yourself.
Yeah, no, true, true. And but how do you differentiate or draw the line between, you know, using social media optimally so that you get that inspiration, but not crossing that line such that you start feeling bad about yourself or start feeling inadequate about your life or your appearance?
Yeah, it is super hard, and I think what is it? It's something like it takes 21 days to break a habit or something like that. But I
Yeah.
think it's like, again, if you are using social media from a business point of view, actually schedule those times in. Like
Good point.
business is this time, and it's harder when you are a freelancer or a personal brand because it blurs a bit more into your personal life than when you are working in an office, for instance, say. But do set yourself those working hours, like between this time and this time is purely work. Don't look at your phone as soon as you get up. Like we're all so guilty of it, but actually get up, like make a cup of tea or a coffee, or have your
Take
water
a
and honey and
stretch.
lemon. Yeah, exactly. And then look at it. Because again, what if you go on your feed and you see really negative things that depress you? That sets you off for a really bad day without even doing anything.
Yeah. Coming back to what we spoke about earlier is also using, I think the key is balance, right?
Yeah.
Anything in life, if you over excessive use of it or underuse of something good, you're not using it optimally. So I think the key is balance. And for me, the kind of accounts that I follow are those that inspire me.
Yeah.
So for example, you know, I like travel, I like fashion. And so I follow these accounts, but I think it's the other important thing, you know, to kind of make sure that social media doesn't impact you negatively is to be very mindful of when you're using social media. So for example, because I like fashion and beauty, I mean fashion and travel, I
Yeah.
follow people or influencers who are, you know, experts in these areas.
Yeah.
And what I often find over the last few years actually is that when you use it positively, it actually gives you a lot of value. So a lot of the places I visited is because are those places that I've seen on Instagram,
Yeah.
because I'm like, that's beautiful. And then, you know, they tag the location of where they go to, right? So I go there and I'm like, oh, I love this place. So Santorini was an example, and it's one of the best places I've been to. So beautiful at sunset. And that's because I saw it on Instagram years ago. And same thing with fashion. Some of the inspiration and ideas that I get on dressing up is by following other people. So I think when we use it positively, there's a lot of value to be gained by learning and observing what other people do, what you like, what you don't like, you know. But when we use it too much and when we are not mindful of how we use it, is when I think it starts to impact one negatively.
Yeah, completely. And like the thing is that with Twitter, for instance, you can set up a list, so you don't actually follow those accounts, but you can put them in a list that you check on once a week. So therefore, every day you're not seeing a post that might, whether it's you're looking at your competitors or someone you want to work with, make a list.
Yeah.
On Instagram, you can save people's images. So have like an inspiration station, I say. So if you are ever feeling glum, you can click on all those posts that you've saved for inspiration and use that to change how you are feeling that day, or change the trajectory of like your goals and focus. So yeah, use social media and create that inspiration station.
Yeah. But the other thing, right, with one of the other negative impacts of social media is people tend to, and I think it's related to what we spoke about earlier, right? Feeling inadequate, or, you know, not satisfied in life, comparison, right? So how should people kind of manage that if they realize, I mean, first you have to recognize, right, that, oh, you know, if you feel like you're comparing yourself a lot with a certain person online or an account, what do you do then?
No, and I can give an example. Recently, June 23rd, I personally had quite a bad day in the fact of, I've been teaching my course now for 5 years, but obviously always updating it. And I've launched a brand new version where I pull on the old stuff, but also integrate all this new stuff. And then someone on my email chain, because during COVID, I sent out 10 emails over 10 weeks, giving free tips and advice to help people during COVID on their online presence. And someone who's been following my email list launched a course an hour after my course using exactly the same wording, like almost identically. And that was a really bad day for me, because I was like, this is my little baby. I've worked so hard for it. And now someone, like, I was comparing it, because I was like, wait, why have they launched this? And obviously I said, give yourself a dwell window. If you feel bad, give yourself a 2-hour, 3-hour dwell window to feel bad.
You know, if they outright copied your stuff and put it on their platform, it's copyright, you know.
Yeah. So then after that, though, so for me, sorry, sirens going by if you can hear them.
No worries.
For me, I would then use that, though, to push me forward and think, right, obviously my product's of value because someone's literally copying it. So, and then you know what I did that very day? I sent out emails, and then yesterday I taught a workshop in Montana, the States, but from England. Like, because I used that to spur me. I reached out to new clients. I was contacted directly by the Royal Ballet School to go in and teach their third years in November. So I thought, yes, I used it to push me. So I think comparison is awful. But again, whether you have to write that down in a list, the pros and cons from it, or take some time away, but use it to push you and inspire you. And it's easier said than done sometimes when you're emotionally fueled over something. So if you need to go for a run, pull yourself away, give yourself a dwell window, do that. But I think comparison is deadly, and also imposter syndrome. Because once you get to a point, you then almost then equally feel like you don't belong there, even though you're really like tried really hard and built your business or your personal brand to that level. So I think comparison and imposter syndrome are both two things that impact everyone. So it surrounds yourself with positive people as well, I think. And I always say with your social media, Marie Kondo your social media. So does it spark joy? So
does it spark joy? If not, delete.
Exactly. Don't follow those accounts that make you feel bad. Like, you bet your bottom dollar that as soon as I found out that person launched their course, unfollow. Like,
audit your social media account and follow people who add positive values to your life and inspires you, because I think social media is a tool, right? It's a tool. It's not good, it's not bad, it's a tool. It's how we use it. If we use it positively, there's so much we can learn from other people. But if we let it use us instead, if we let it control us, then that's when anxiety starts, depression starts, and and we want to avoid situations like that.
Completely. And going back to what we said earlier on, work out what you use social media in regards to the business capacity. Your Facebook account may be completely personal. Great, you don't need to worry about that. Oh, you might use Instagram and Twitter as an extension of you or as a shop front, but schedule in those hours in which you use it for business. So where you look at your competitors or you do your community management and comment on people, but in the rest of the time, just use it recreationally. So don't feel like you have to be on it all the time every day.
Set limits and use it when you can, but don't be hooked on it.
Completely.
Joash gave a very interesting comment. He said, personal observation, it's easy to create negative content, and sadly negative stuff gains more traction. And that's true, and it ties in nicely with the other point I wanted to raise in regards to negative impacts of social media, which is cyberbullying. So when negative news or comments or like, for example, Twitter, it's a hotspot for spreading lies, rumors, abuse, and abusing people. So how do you think that should be handled?
Well, and that's I think that's a great point he's raised, because That's why fake news and clickbait get so much traction, because someone will post a controversial headline and everyone's like angry emoji commenting, but the more you comment and gave it traction, the more it keeps pushing up the algorithm and on the feed. So the first thing is, obviously, if you've seen an article or post that is completely not true or hurtful, flag it as spam, block it. You can always,
or report it to Twitter, right? Report it to Twitter, report it to Facebook or Instagram.
As much as you want to maybe show that you don't support that or that it's not in your ethos, just don't give it the time of day. Don't let it breathe. Don't share it on your feed saying, I can't believe this. The best thing to do is to report it, mark it as spam, block that person. Because the more people comment on that, it fuels the fire.
More it's going to be seen.
Yeah.
So for example, if you comment on something, it comes out on your feed then, and your followers is going to see that. And then when someone else shares that, their followers is going to see it. So you're actually just popularizing that negative.
Exactly. And especially at the moment, there's so much going on online.
Yeah.
And we need to educate ourselves. We need to support and celebrate each other. And the things that don't align with your ethos and your values, don't let that get the better of you. And I know it's so hard, so easy to do. But again, like, report it, block it, mark it as spam. Don't share it or post it, because you're just fueling it. And although you and your friends may feel the same, send it to them in a private message if you have to kind of get out your system. But don't fuel the fire.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. You know, don't fuel the fire and continue spreading it. But if you need to talk to somebody about it, send it privately, or pick up the phone and call someone about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Jamie. You know, I think it's been a great conversation. We've spoken about the power and influence of social media. We've spoken about, you know, how to master your online presence, how to grow and establish your brand online. We've also spoken about, you know, using social media well and effectively so that we can derive the benefits out of using social media. Because it can be a platform, and it can be a platform for good, right? To use your voice for good, but don't use it excessively, and don't let and use it with caution, because we also acknowledge that there are negative impacts to using social media if not used wisely. And we've spoken about things like comparison, about feeling inadequate, about which is linked to, I guess, fear of missing out, right? When you start comparing, and also cyberbullying.
Exactly. And before we get cut off, if you wouldn't do it in real life, don't do it online. That's a good rule to live by.
Well said. If you don't do it in real life, then don't do it online as well. So yes, and I think to sum up, the key is to using social media wisely, use it well, use it for, if you have a platform, use it to speak up on issues that matter, like we've seen recently, Black Lives Matter, and using it to get inspiration. And if you feel that something is bothering you, then use it to push, like in your personal experience, Jamie, using it to push you, to fuel you to do better, and not let it affect you negatively. Obviously, it's a lot easier said than done, but I think, you know, this is just a constant, something that we have to be constantly aware of. And it's just a constant thing that we have to work with. Any last words you want to add, Jamie?
If you've got any questions or you're not sure, like, head over to my website, jamiebody.com. I have some free resources on there, or the Business of Show Business podcast that might answer some of your questions about strategy, what to post, and what accounts to be on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Jamie. It's been a pleasure having you on IG Live on Secrets to Success. I want to thank all of you guys for tuning in today. Thank you for your questions, your comments. It's been very, very interesting. And thank you, Jamie, for coming on live as well.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.